back in the spring, I had the honor to talk to two people that have been in this business of media and journalism for a long time. They're the real deal. They do it in front of the camera, behind the camera, on page, they're the real deal. Who am I talking about? Well, you guys remember back right before the White House Correspondents' Dinner, we had on Ian Cameron, who is a former ABC News producer, and Lisa Stark, who is a former ABC News reporter. I say that just to give some a little bit of texture here in terms of the former versus what they are doing now, which is, as I've said, they will always be producers and always be journalists because they set the standard. They help set the standard for so much of what is good about our media and journalism right now. So I want to welcome back to the show Lisa Stark and Ian Cameron. Good morning, guys. Welcome back to Choose Views.
Thank you so much.
Good morning. Good to be here.
Yeah, good to have you guys. I'm gonna start with the big broad question that you guys can take and you can chew on it all you want. What the hell is going on right now when it comes to our overall media? I mean, specifically corporate media. I have watched the last couple of weeks some of the most unnecessary questions be asked by folks in front of the camera of politicians that I have ever really seen. Like, where did that come from? Where were you sitting and thinking, oh, I'm going to ask that question? Now, I get to be a radio host and do my show, and I don't seek perfection. I seek, getting better every day, and I work hard to try to ask good questions. But Lisa, you start with you, and Ian, you can pick up after that. What is causing so many of the on-camera reporters, journalists, to ask some of the questions of politicians that they're asking at this current time? Is it because we're coming up to a midterm election? Is it due to the different primary races and special elections, and they're just trying to get a sound bite or a clip? What's going on there?
Well, I think you have to remember the media is pretty fractured right now. So some of the questions that might be being asked might not be by traditional media, you might say.
Okay.
I do think that I think it's tough, I think part of it is the election. I think part of it is our media environment, where, as you say, you want to get that clip that's going to really zing on social media. It's going to attract a lot of attention. But I do think also there's just so many issues to discuss right now. It's if I were a reporter, it'd be a little hard to go, like, where do I go? There are so many things I want to ask. And it might be front and center that day in your mind. So I don't want to second guess these people. They're having really, really tough job right now, especially if they're questioning the president or any officials in the administration. But, as someone who's been in those scrums and those press conferences, it's sometimes hard to figure out, okay, what's the best question to get a decent answer today?
Okay, got it. Ian, what are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with Lisa. I would say that, first of all, the media and in this administration just follows this shiny object. And, Trump is nothing but a fire hose of clicks for news organizations. And as Lisa said, it's such a fractured media environment. You have online news organizations that are just looking for those clicks and will just publish whatever insane thing Trump says, will bait him, and will get traffic on their websites for it. And then there's, God love them, the what I would call traditional media that is trying to report on this administration and give Americans, the fair view of what's going on. And frankly, they have to really struggle to get their questions in, especially when we talk about the White House pool and the Oval Office, when we're asking President Trump questions. The New York Times is battling with fringe conservative online websites to get questions to the president. So it just leads to a real circus, frankly. At the same time, when you talk about corporate media is under pressure. They're under pressure by this administration. And although I still believe that doesn't filter down to the individual journalism level, there's no doubt that there's pressure for all journalists in this business right now.
I was at a wedding reception on Saturday, and a couple of the people that were there we're talking about my show and just more broadly, what do I watch, what do I listen to, et cetera. And I said I try to get a little bit of everything because I want to try to get a flavor for what's being talked about, and maybe something I should stay away from until I have a little bit more information. I'm sure you probably had to have discernment as a producer and as a reporter. We don't have enough information to cover that right now. We'll get to it in a week or so, or a day or whatever. So I articulated that there's certain things that I look at, there's certain things that I don't, and I listen to, and all the rest. I try to take it all in and then come up with where I want to be on what I maybe want to talk about. And you as guest helped that. But the one thing that was interesting is that one of the persons during this conversation said to me, Richard, I really like what goes on right now on Abby Phillip's show on CNN. Mm. And what are your thoughts about that? And this is what I said, and this kind of goes to part of what you were just saying, Ian. I said, what I like about Abby Phillips is that, she does a great job of playing referee. Mm-hmm. And I think that I see a lot of that happening right now, is that oftentimes the host of a show in many cases is playing referee. And then they said, well, why do you think that's happening? I said, well, the pressure, coming back to what Ian was saying, from the C-suite to have people on that are going to generate a certain amount of controversy and back and forth seems to be where some of the corporate media is going these days. Am I way off in double left field, guys, or is that kind of what you're seeing as well? Lisa, you get the baton first.
Well, I mean, look, Abby Phillips is a fabulous journalist, as you know, and
yes.
she's spectacular. But her show, I think, is designed to be a little bit of a fist fight, if you will. And I think your indication of referee is a really good way to put it. And I do think it's unfortunately the environment we're living in right now. I mean, I remember, I'm old enough to remember when CNN started, and it was a very traditional, news outlet with the reporter, stories and packages, and of course they would have guests on, and they would, their brilliance is they could be live at the drop of a hat, when the war started in the Middle East and all of that. And they're now competing with so many different shows that are also in a sense, screaming at the viewer. Mm-hmm. And so I think you're right. I think as Ian said, it's somewhat about clickbait. It's about trying to, to get eyeballs, even as you are trying to discuss. And I'm not saying they aren't trying to discuss serious issues, but because they are, but they're doing it in a way which does make it look like, sort of a fist fight, if you will.
Yeah. Ian, what are your thoughts there?
Well, when I think about CNN, I think I'm old enough, so is Lisa, I think old enough to remember Crossfire, which was a classic liberal conservative debate. And it would end up, it devolved, frankly, into a real just shouting match between two political ends of the spectrum. And, CNN canceled it for that reason. Viewers got tired of it. Now we've sort of recreated that in Abby's show. The difference is, I think, as you say, Abby is a bit of a referee and tries to bring some sanity and instant fact-checking to some of the guests.
Yeah.
But, to CNN's credit, I guess, they're one of the few of the cable stations that really tries to reach out to conservatives and Republicans to come on the show, as well as Democrats. But the problem is that, and Abby finds herself in the situation, everything. You're shadow boxing so much with, especially, and I'm sorry, I have to single out Republicans who come on that show who sort of represent Donald Trump's point of view. You're arguing with nonsense. It's made up. And, if you talk to people who are on that show and are in the green room with those guests, with those Republican MAGA guests, those MAGA guests often say that they're not serious about what they're saying on the air. Yeah. So it's entertainment, and it's sad, but that's really what. And it's not even clear that it really works in terms of audience numbers. CNN is struggling behind, both not only Fox but even MSNBC. So I am very sympathetic with programmers right now who are trying to navigate this political environment and finding the sweet spot for what audiences want. But boy, it's a real challenge, and Abby, I give her a herogram every day for refereeing that show.
Well, I'm glad that the three of us, two real journalists and a producer, and then me, I call you a journalist as well, Ian, but we all landed in the same spot with the first thing that came out of our mouth, which is Abby is a phenomenal journalist that's having to play referee right now. So, guys, let's take a quick break. When we come back, I want to talk a little bit about this lawsuit. Let's talk a little bit about what's going on with Paramount and the decoy playing. I'm trying to squeeze that all in. The number is 773-763-9278. I'm Richard Chu. Keep it locked in. We'll be right back with more of Chu's Views. All right, guys, welcome back to Chu's Views. Thanks for being with us this morning. Ian Cameron and Lisa Stark are hanging out with us this morning, two of my new favorite folks this year as it relates to journalism and the business, because they speak the truth, because they've been there. As I said, they've been in the mix, and they know what's going on, and I appreciate you guys taking some time. I know our listeners all over the country appreciate what you've been through and what you stand for now. One of those things is this doggone White House Correspondents' Dinner. I say doggone, meaning I shouldn't say it that way. It's not doggone. It's the doggone president. A lot of words to throw at you guys on that. But talk to us about this. You guys once again said, all right, team, we got to push back on this this tragedy of the White House. Give us your thoughts, Lisa.
Whew. Where do Ian and I start? Ian and I have been working on trying to support, as former journalists, trying to gather other former journalists to support freedom of the press efforts almost a year now, since the Jimmy Kimmel debacle, if you will, since Disney pulled Jimmy Kimmel off the air for a week. And when the White House Correspondents' Dinner was set, and Ian and I knew that President Trump was coming, we thought, what are we going to do? Because we had a vision of what the evening might look like. And we had over 500 former journalists and 8 press organizations sign a letter saying, okay, the president's going to be there. He's going to be right up on the stage. Use your podium to speak out about what is wrong about how the administration treats the press. They chose not to do that. And I understand it was a difficult ask. You don't want to insult your guest of honor. But he insults the press all the time, and he certainly insulted them that evening. So all I can say is we raised our voices, we made our voices heard. It definitely created a buzz. Mm-hmm. And we understand the president has already been invited and has accepted for next year.
Wow.
So stay tuned. And Ian, I'll let you pick it up from there.
Yeah, to be honest, I think the White House Correspondents Association put themselves in a very sort of defensive crouch in response to our letter to them, signed by 500 journalists. I am sympathetic to the fact that the White House Correspondents Association is a large organization of journalists from all ends of the political spectrum. As we've said several times, our journalism is very fractured now. There are very small online organizations, influencers that are part of the White House Press Corps, and there's the traditional mainstream journalism organizations. And, to get consensus among all those members is difficult for any leader of the White House Correspondents Association. Having said that, if you're in the White House Press Corps, you believe in the First Amendment and you believe in freedom of speech. That is what gives you the agency to go into that Oval Office and report to the American people who trust you with that responsibility. Yeah. And to me, I just, every time the White House Correspondents Association responds to pressure from organizations like ours, their response is, well, we have to work with this president. We cover him. We have to, and to me, that just continues this sort of road of sort of submission. Because once you start giving with this administration, there's no end to the asks.
And clearly that's the case because of the way in which, the Kimmel situation, I won't overstate the use of, that's a textbook way of dealing with this White House, but the American people, if you will, said, no, we don't like this, and we will show our power and let Disney know you all need to get your heads right on this one. You think that the president's going to cost you? We're going to cost you serious money.
Well, you know what, Richard? And I think that message, in a sense, got through because, as Ian and I have indicated, we are thrilled that Disney has gone on the offensive now,
right,
and is suing the Federal Communications Commission over its actions against Disney. I think Disney sort of, and Disney marshaled its viewers to send letters. Thousands, tens of thousands of comments have been made to the FCC about their attempt to thwart the show The View and their attempt to pull in 8 station licenses for early renewal. So I think, as I like to say, the mouse has roared, and I'm really, really glad that they are pushing back because, as Ian said, I think people discover if you give an inch, they take a mile.
There's no question.
So they are trying to push back, and we are delighted about that.
It's great to see, and listen, with regard to something like that situation and how it sort of set a little bit of a template. They've kind of got their sea legs, if you will. It's good to see that they are pushing back. I got to ask you guys something that came across my notifications and as it should, and that's the situation with the Pentagon and Stars and Stripes. And I'll let you guys lay out what's happened and what it means for this disruption to be taking place with Stars and Stripes.
Ian, you want to start on that one?
Yeah, well, Stars and Stripes is a really unique publication. I mean, it's funded by the Pentagon. Its employees are part of the Pentagon, or Pentagon employees, the journalists there, but it has had full editorial independence from the Pentagon. And we're talking about a publication that was first published in the Civil War and has been published continuously since World War II. 1.4 million people in the military, civilians and service members see the Stars and Stripes every day. It plays a vital role in providing independent news for people serving in the military and military families. And so that's not good enough for this administration. And so starting last spring, they've slowly been chipping away at the independence of the Stars and Stripes. They issued an edict that they wanted to end the woke distractions of Stars and Stripes. They banned Stars and Stripes from running wire service news and comics. And then they fired the sort of ombudsman for the Stars and Stripes last spring. And then just a few weeks ago, they fired the editor-in-chief, their Middle East reporter, and their publisher, all for insubordination. So this is so tragic. I mean, it's phenomenal in this country that we have an independent news organization that exists within the military, and that whole culture is being torn up, and we're losing that independence that we've had for, as I said, back to the Civil War.
150 years plus.
And, there are lawsuits that have been filed, but sadly, this is moving so quickly that I worry that we'll ever get the Stars and Stripes back to where it was.
Well, and Lisa, take it from here on this, but it's from what I've been reading, the goal is to maintain or to take over editorial control and content. Am I right about that?
Right. I mean, that's certainly what it appears to be. They've appointed a new sort of assistant publisher or editor-in-chief who claims that the paper is going to remain independent. But, the people who were recently fired were fired for insubordination. What was their insubordination? Their insubordination was saying publicly that they work for the military and not for the Pentagon, not for the White House, that they're independent, and that a red line in the sand would be if the Pentagon says, oh, you can't run your article, you got to run our article. So that was their insubordination. So it's very clear, as Ian said, that this once incredibly amazing organization, independent newspaper, is something that Pentagon is trying to put under its thumb and make sure that they don't report on things like the fact that people on the USS Lincoln, who've been in the Middle East for,
200
some
plus days.
300, whatever, how many days it is now, are suffering. They don't have enough to eat. They're psychologically suffering. So the paper reports that. The Pentagon doesn't like it.
No. You guys, it's always great to have you on. When I prepare to talk to the two of you, I really want to make sure I have my ducks in order because you guys have done this for such a long time. But I appreciate you taking some time to hang out with us this morning. Ian, how can folks find you if they choose to say, what's Ian got going on in his world?
You can find me on social media. My handle is @EasyOut is the best way to find me.
Awesome. Lisa, same for you.
I'm an old-fashioned woman. I'm often on Facebook, and I believe it's @LisaStarkABC because I set up the account when I was at ABC News.
You got to get some new stuff, Lisa.
I'm on X too, but that TikTok stuff, I don't get that TikTok stuff.
That tickety-tock stuff, that's right. Ian Cameron and Lisa Stark, always great to have you guys with us, and it's always a pleasure to take some time. Appreciate you both. Stay safe and keep up the great work that you've been doing, okay?
Richard, thanks for your time.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Richard. Thanks very much.
All right, talk to you both soon. Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.